Hello, this is Notary Life with Kimmi. Well, hey guys, today we are talking all things about the Notary ink stamp. And you're probably thinking, Kim, you need to do a video about ink stamps. I sure do, and let me tell you why. So with our ink stamp, there are several things that we're never going to do, okay? So you have your Notary stamp, and you decide, you know what? I got the wrong color ink in it, or I just don't have enough ink. I'm going to use a regular ink pad and take my stamp and stick it in there and do documents. That may work in a fix, and that might be okay once or twice, but that is not how we're conducting business as a notary. We're going to have our ink stamp, our notary stamp, filled up with the proper color ink, and that's how we're going to be stamping documents. So recently the question was asked, well, can I just take my stamp and stick it in a pad? I have a red stamp. Can I stick it into a black ink pad and stamp documents? I'm going to say that's a negative. No, because your ink is going to come out looking crazy. If it's a mixture of red and black, we don't know what color that might end up being on your document. You do not want your documents to look ugly. That's just real talk, okay? You may get away with it once or twice, but if you constantly sending documents back to a lender or to anyone and they see all these mismatched colors, they're going to wonder what's going on, right? So the common color in the industry is black. Okay, let's be clear. Black ink in your notary stamp. Some people want red, purple, all these different colors, blue even. Standard is black. Let's be clear. One. Also, you want to make sure that you have an extra stamp if your state allows it. Now, I know some people's state does not allow for extra stamp, so don't even tell me in the comments, okay? Because I already know that. But if your state does not specify that you can only have one, have a backup stamp. Anything can happen. They're made kind of fragile anyway, so it might fall and break. You're doing long signings all day long, so you're doing document after document. You might run out of ink. You want to have a rectangular size is my preference because it's smaller, because the round ones tend to be kind of large for your documents. But if you can have both, that's fine too. I have a round one and I have a rectangular. But my preference again is a rectangular because it tends to fit more. So you want to make sure that you keep your notary stamps in a separate bag inside the notary bag, because if you don't, they'll just be loosey-goosey in there and collect dust, and when you get ready to go stamp your document, it's not a crisp, clean look. It might look like something's all within the stamp, and we don't want that. So go ahead and keep it separate. You want to make sure you clean it out. Sometimes it can get so clogged up. I had that happen. I went to stamp a document and my date just was not clear because the ink had clogged up on the bottom of it. So you want to make sure sometimes you take a look and just stamp a sample document to make sure your stamp is nice and crisp. You wouldn't want somebody to reject your document saying, well, I can't read the date. So make sure your stamp is nice and clean. Also, you want to keep a backup stamp just in case it's ever lost or stolen. You might have one at home if your state allows. Again, I know all states cannot, all states do not allow you to have a backup stamp, okay? Another tip out there, people, I'm hearing about someone, so you accept an assignment, you say, well, hey, I'll go let my notary friend do my assignment for me. I'll send it over to her and she can take care of it. Be very cautious of that. If you're going to have someone else to do your assignment, make sure you get it approved through the company. Why? Because sometimes they will check your notary stamp to make sure it is who the person they assigned. And I have had that happen. They told me within the letter from the signing company that they will be checking to make sure that my stamp was on that document. So your notary stamp is very, very important. Again, you don't just want to let someone else go and do the job for you, okay? Another tip for you is you might want to order your stamps if you have not already, or the next time you have to order some. Order them in a nice color, the actual stamp part, the unit. You can get pink and purple and blue and things like that. That way when you're at a long signing and you sit your stamp on the table, it'll kind of stand out and you won't accidentally forget it when you're packing things up. Sometimes if everything is black and just kind of neutral on the table, it won't stand out. So my actual stamp is pink. The house or the casing for it. The casing for the stamp is actually pink, but they come in all different colors. So you might want to get you a different color stamp so you can recognize it, okay? So make sure you keep your stamps clean. Make sure they're very well inked. Make sure you keep extra ink on you in case you run out. If you can have an extra stamp, go ahead and have one if your state permits it. And go ahead and get your money. But make sure that stamp is right. You wouldn't have thought it was so much to talk about an ink stamp, would you? But there was. Also, when re-inking your stamp, you want to make sure you give it time to absorb the new ink, because sometimes if you try to stamp right away, your document will be blotchy. When you go to stamp it, everything will look kind of smeared and all over the place. So give it at least a day, or like, so if I know I'm running low on ink, I can make it through the day. When I first get home that evening, I'm going to refill it and let it sit overnight. And then normally let it sit straight up and down, and by the next day it's ready to stamp. That's another tip also. When you're doing your documents, you want to make sure you keep your documents on a nice, flat, hard surface. If you try to stamp documents on a stack of paper, sometimes it'll get kind of like wiggly, or it won't be stable, and your ink stamp will look like that too. You might have half the paper is flat and the other half is missing. That's not a valid stamp. So make sure you're on a nice, firm, hard surface. I usually keep clipboards in my bags. I do keep clipboards in my bag. I recommend you put some clipboards in your bags also, and when you're handing your documents to people, you make sure that they have something hard to write on. You also need that, especially in general notary work. You'll never know where you're gonna be at. Sometimes you got to use your knee. You might be on the ground, you at the back of the car, wherever. You need a flat, hard surface to do your stamping. Okay, that's very important. Also, make sure that you don't leave the stamp in the car, because it could be heat sensitive, in the sense that if it's too hot, it might melt in certain elements. So you want to make sure that you always protect your ink stamp. Your ink stamp is your money maker, so you don't want anything to happen to it, okay? So make sure you protect it. Your notary stamp is your money maker, all right? Well, this is Notary Life with Kimmi.